So we're going to start working on the interior, and here I have the first wrap. What I am going to do is follow a protocol described by Margaret Hey in her paper titled the Washing and Aqueous Deacidification of Paper, right? And this is an older paper from the 1970s, late 70s. But it's a good paper because the way she does things is first she sprays the paper with water, just regular water. You let the water penetrate fully before you do the deacidification process, right? So I've been doing it all along unknowingly because I always measure the pH of the paper by wetting it first, letting it sit for 10 minutes, and then with water, right? Letting it sit for 10 minutes, and then I measure the pH. So I've been doing it that way all along. But what we're going to do this time is wet it with water, let it sit for about 10 minutes, measure the pH, and then do the deacidification bath with calcium hydroxide and betaine. So that's the idea. And then we bring this to about pH 8, and we'll do the same for all the other wraps. So we start off by saturating the wrap with just plain water, tap water. This is water at about 40 degrees centigrade, so it's warm, so it's comfortable to spray on your hands and you're not going to feel it. Warm water accelerates cleaning. My water is at pH 6. I'm going to spray both sides. Let it saturate for about 10 minutes, and that allows the water to fully penetrate. And then we measure the acidity of the wrap. So if you have alkaline water to use, that's going to be okay also, but the initial pH may not be as accurate, right? Because these wraps are acidic to begin with. So we're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes and come back and measure the pH of this paper. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes and the water has penetrated into the wrap, and now let's try to measure the pH. So what I'm going to do is scrape off some of this water to the side, and when you squeeze it like this, what's happening is you're getting the acid out at the same time. So the acid in the paper should be like available now for us to measure the pH of. I'm going to just measure the corner here. So I have the pH paper here to measure with, and I'm going to place it directly on the wet wrap and take a look at it and see what the pH is. Looks like we have pH 5, between 5 and 6, close to 6 actually, closer to 6 than 5. So it's not so bad, right? Between 5 and 6, I'm going to call it. Not too bad. So what we're going to do next is, now that the paper is entirely soaked with the water, I'm going to start the deacidification process. I'm going to use calcium hydroxide solution. No betaine at this point, just calcium hydroxide solution, and it is a half-strength solution is what I'm using. So I'm going to add this directly to the wrap, and then add another equivalence of water, just pure tap water, and this is lukewarm tap water. It is going to give me hopefully quick action, right, on the wrap. Wrap now is bathing in this liquid, and we'll see what kind of acid comes out, what kind of color we get with it, right? So stay tuned for that, guys. We're going to do it for approximately 10 minutes or so. You can see the bath itself is very alkaline, right? So it's I would say about 11, right? 11, 12 in that general range. So it's probably already deacidified, I bet you. I'm just going to let it sit for another 2 minutes and take it out. So this hopefully will be a faster method of deacidifying the wrap, and I can't wait to measure the pH of the wrap itself. Let me get rid of the water and come back and measure the pH. Hold on. I'm going to dry it quickly with some paper towel. Just the excess solution is going to be in the paper towel. So, and then we measure the pH now. see what it is. Ready? Ooh. Like pH 10 almost. This tells me that the Margaret Hay's method is working, right? Working really well. If I had a 1 part calcium hydroxide to 4 parts water, it wouldn't have jumped that high, right? In my opinion right now, just based on this one single experiment, right? So I'm going to flatten this and put it in the press to dry, and we'll do all the other wraps the same way. Okay, so we're gonna put it in the press. I'm gonna with paper towels to dry, and I have another plexiglass on top, another piece of wood on top, and this is gonna go in the press. It's just water. So if it's still high at like pH 9 or 10, this might lower it a little bit, but not by much, right? At least it will give us a clue as to what if the pH maintained or not, right? So we can measure that. So let it sit and saturate for a little bit, and then we can come back and measure the pH. Ready? Let's check and see if the pH is at least 8, right? And this is, took only a single wash. Excuse me for a second here. Yeah. Okay. Took only a single wash in calcium hydroxide solution. Yep. It's alkaline. See it? So it's about pH 8 or 9. Exactly what I want it to be, right? A happy zone. So spray with water, leave it on for 10 minutes, then deacidify with 1:1 solution of calcium hydroxide. There you go. Got there in no time whatsoever. All right, I'm going to cover it again and put it in the press. For all the other wraps, what I'm going to do, instead of spraying them initially with water, I'm going to soak them with water, because I'm not interested in measuring the initial pH of these, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and add about 300 mils of water to this. This is just warm tap water, and I'm going to let it saturate and penetrate and hydrate for 10 minutes, just using recommendation by Margaret Hey. And this method, by the way, is a collaboration between me and Don Carter. Don Carter has tried it also, and it does work pretty well for him as well. So this is another project we collaborated on that we both seem to have good results with. All right, so we'll leave this going for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and do the deacidification with calcium hydroxide. Stay tuned. See the color of the water already. So this is some of the acid washed out, and we can go ahead, get rid of this water now, and replace it with a 1:1 solution of saturated calcium hydroxide and water. And the water itself had a pH of about 6 when I sampled it. So you can see that some of the acid got removed that way. And my water usually tests between 6 and 7, so it was slightly, so some acid definitely got out of this wrap. All right, so now we're going to add equal portions of calcium hydroxide saturated and water, and both are at temperature of about 40 degrees centigrade. You can warm up your calcium hydroxide in the microwave if you'd like. So here the pre-washing essentially removed initial soluble acidity, and that allowed now the deacidification part to be faster, more efficient processing. And we're combining essentially the pre-washing with the subsequent deacidification without the intermediate drying in between, right? And this saves time, saves labor, and ensures better penetration of the calcium hydroxide solution. So we'll wait on this a little bit longer. It's been about 2 minutes, not quite ready yet, but we should start seeing the acid soon and the dirt accumulating soon, right? You can see it already here, right? So they will give this 10 minutes or so, and then we'll evaluate. The water is getting cold already, but that's expected. So there is this expected discoloration in the water because the deacidification solution is gonna extract the acidic degradation products from the paper, and that's what ends up in your solution at the end. The calcium hydroxide is very effective and is good at extracting these acidic compounds due to its basic nature. So the calcium ends up binding with the cellulose and you end up leaving behind a basic reserve or an alkaline reserve in there. And this paper, there is no need to rinse it with water, because once you rinse it with water, you're going to get rid of all the calcium hydroxide that you left behind. And much of the calcium hydroxide will become calcium carbonate over time because of its reaction with carbon dioxide in the air. So you're going to get that as an alkaline reserve in your wraps. All right, so we'll get rid of this water and take out the wrap and dry it. And then we're going to cover it and put it in the press.